Driving. Ugh. It's the conversation people dread. It's the conversation no one wants to have, and yet it's a very important conversation to have. And the real question is evaluation. Looking at assessing the person's ability, because it turns out it's not one size fits all. There are a lot of variables to take into account when we talk about somebody's ability to actively control a motor vehicle and get places. The first is, would you get in the car with them? Oh, actually, would you put small children in the car with them and set them off on a journey to do what they usually do in a thunderstorm with bad traffic and the kids wanting to listen to the radio? If your answer is, ugh, I don't know, it may be time to look at your own reaction to what's happening and why driving is such a concern. So let's pause, take a deep breath, acknowledge this is not something you really want to do, but it's something that does need to happen before it becomes a crisis or an emergency. So let's explore it before you get into it in depth. Who could drive if the person is not going to be driving? Who would they accept? Who's around? Who's available? What are the options for driving? Second, where do they need to go, want to go, like to go? Why is driving the driving force versus getting somewhere, or is it? And then third, who's going to have this conversation about evaluating driving or driving? So now we know what some of the puzzle pieces are. What are we going to do about that? And it turns out we tend not to get worried until we see signs. So some of the signs to look for are indications that driving is not going as it used to. It could be the person is getting lost. It could be the person is changing how they drive. You're noticing that their reaction speed, their ability to judge distances, their timing, their ability to respond to other drivers' behaviors. They're turning and looking over their shoulder. Just simply isn't happening. They're glancing away from the scene in front of them, or their fixed position, looking at speed, looking at lane shifting. When I move my head, does the car weave? Looking at situations where I'm not looking when I back up or start to do something. I'm not using turn signals than I used to. Maybe I have too many things going on and you notice that I'm turning on the windshield wipers or the lights when what I really want to do is turn on the radio or vice versa. In other words, things have actually progressed to a place where you're worried. And if it's gotten to that place, it is definitely time to do a pause and consider. How aware is the person of the changes? How long have they been driving? Has there been anything that's happened? Scrapes, problems with mirrors, issues with not fitting in the garage anymore, or making excuses, tickets, interactions with law enforcement or others? Is there an emotional thing going on? If that's the case, it's definitely time to do something because we have public safety concerns. So who should have this conversation? We want to look at three possible categories. Someone in authority, maybe a physician, maybe a trusted advisor, maybe a lawyer, insurance person. Depends on the individual situation. The second is who should be with that human being when that discussion is happening and what's their role. The third, well, if they're not going to be driving, oh, wait, here's the problem. We may have somebody who has to officially stop the driving, and that may mean involving law enforcement. It may actually mean they get a letter in the mail that says, for right now, no driving, or no driving from now on. Some people actually need somebody to say, no, What you don't want to be is the person saying no all by yourself, if at all humanly possible, because what you've done is create a situation of potential conflict. And if you're having to be there for other reasons, try not to be the person who's in that control seat. Here's the reality. Different dementias, different people, different other medical conditions can help us better understand when and how driving needs to reduce, driving needs to stop, driving needs to change. But we must consider, if we're removing one thing, how do we add something in its place? The art of substitution, not subtraction. And these conversations are tricky. So consider rehearsing before you go for the real deal of asking about an evaluation. And decide where and who might do that evaluation, and provide possibly some options before you get far into it. Driving. I wish we didn't have to talk about it. Usually it is something that has to be approached. Or perhaps you're living in a situation where public transportation independently might become the issue you have to address. In all cases, we're talking about changing someone's life. So realize it's not going to be easy for anyone.